Suri Cruz has finally broken her silence, and Hollywood is terrified. The secret she just revealed about Tom isn't what anyone expected. It changes everything. You need to hear this.
Suri Cruz just broke her silence in a way nobody in Hollywood saw coming, and now the whole industry is buzzing like crazy. The secret she put out into the world about Tom has people staring at their screens trying to figure out what it really means. It's wild because the truth she revealed wasn't dramatic yelling or messy interviews. It was one bold move that flipped the whole narrative upside down. Think about it. What if one of Hollywood's long-protected mysteries just cracked open because a young woman decided she wasn't living in anybody's shadow anymore? For years, people watched Tom Cruise's youngest slowly fade out of public view, and everyone just shrugged it off like another famous family breakup. But this situation was never just about parents splitting up. It was about a daughter stepping into her own power and making a choice that hit Hollywood like a lightning bolt. A choice so intentional it shocked anyone who dared to pay attention. She dropped one of the most recognizable last names on the planet and swapped it out for something nobody saw coming. People thought Suri Cruz stayed silent all this time, but the truth is she's been speaking louder than ever without saying a single word. I've been going through court files, insider statements, and the quiet yet strategic moves Katie Holmes made when she pulled off what many insiders call one of the cleanest, smartest exits Hollywood has ever seen. And the deeper you look, the more you realize this wasn't gossip. This was a full-scale strategy playing out behind the scenes. So here's the breakdown, because every layer of this story hits different. From the moment Katie planned her escape like she was moving pieces on a chessboard, all the way to the moment Suri stepped forward with a choice that sent a message louder than any headline ever could. She didn't have to drag anyone or expose anything. She simply made it clear she's not standing in the world the way people remember, and that alone shook fans everywhere. When the graduation lineup for LaGuardia High School's class of 2024 dropped, people scrolling through the names stopped in their tracks. The name Suri Cruz, the one the world had known for 18 years, was nowhere to be found. Instead, it read, Suri Noel. No announcement, no interview, no dramatic statement, just a quiet, powerful decision that spoke all on its own and left Hollywood trying to figure out what message she was sending with that one bold move. This wasn't even the first time her new identity slipped into the public eye. She had already tested the waters months earlier. In the playbill for her school's production of the Addams Family musical, the name printed wasn't Suri Cruz, it was Suri Noel. And that middle name? That wasn't random at all. Noel is Katie Holmes's middle name, her own mother's name, the woman who held everything together while raising her through some of the most intense chapters of their lives. By choosing Noel instead of Cruz, Suri wasn't just showing love to her mom. She was making a loud public shift away from a father she hasn't been photographed with in over a decade. It was a soft move, but it hit like a headline nobody expected. People close to the family later confirmed what the internet had already pieced together. Suri wanted her own identity. She wanted a clean slate before stepping into college life, and she wanted distance from the paparazzi chaos that came with carrying one of the most recognizable last names in modern entertainment. This wasn't about being angry or starting drama. This was about a young woman taking control of her own story. She grew up in a world where her name alone was a headline, where cameras waited outside her school, and where every little thing she did was judged under the weight of a legacy she never asked for. But once she turned 18, officially an adult, she finally had the legal power to choose something different, and she chose Katie. That choice said everything without her needing to say a single word, and the timing made the whole situation even louder. On June 21, 2024, Katie Holmes stood in New York City surrounded by other proud parents, tears rolling down her face as she watched her daughter walk across the graduation stage. It was a huge moment. Emotional, real, and full of meaning. Meanwhile, that very same night, thousands of miles away in London, Tom Cruise was seen dancing at Taylor Swift's Eras Tour like life was perfectly normal. He wasn't at the graduation, and he hasn't been part of her public life in years, and now she had officially removed his name altogether. So the internet started doing what it always does, asking the heavy questions. Was this her quietly closing the door for good? Was it a symbolic final step showing the distance is real? Or was it simply a young woman defining her future on her own terms before stepping into her next chapter at Carnegie Mellon University? The real answer, just like everything else in this story, is layered and way more complicated than it looks on the surface. It all goes back to choices made long before Suri was old enough to speak for herself. Choices that shaped the entire future of this family without her ever getting a vote. Let's rewind all the way to April 2005. Tom Cruise was 42, one of the biggest stars alive, coming off hits like The Last Samurai and gearing up to promote War of the Worlds with Steven Spielberg. Katie Holmes was 26, fresh off her Dawson's Creek fame, still carrying that America's sweetheart energy, with dreams that felt simple compared to the roller coaster she was about to step into. When their romance hit the news, it blew up so fast it barely felt real, almost like a Hollywood promo run more than an actual relationship. But here's the part people forget. Katie literally predicted this years earlier. In a 2004 interview with 17 magazine, she said Tom Cruise was her childhood crush, and she used to think she would marry him. Back then, it sounded like a cute teen fantasy, the kind every young fan jokes about. Nobody could have pictured it turning into real life, or ending in a way that would have the whole world speculating years later. Their relationship moved at a speed that felt unreal. They were first spotted together in Rome in April 2005, holding hands, smiling, completely locked into each other like they'd been together forever. Then, just weeks later, on May 23, 2005, Tom showed up on the Oprah Winfrey Show to promote his movie, and what happened became one of the most unforgettable, bizarre TV moments in pop culture history. He didn't just talk about being in love. He jumped on Oprah's couch multiple times, pumping his fists and shouting with so much intensity that the crowd didn't know whether to laugh or scream. And even that wasn't the wildest part. Later in the episode, he ran backstage, grabbed Katie, and brought her out to the audience, holding her arms behind her back as he presented her like some kind of prize for everyone to admire. She smiled, she waved, she looked overwhelmed. But viewers at home felt this strange energy, like something wasn't sitting right. People started whispering, "Is this passion, or is this something else entirely?" Looking back now, the whole moment feels even more unsettling, almost like the first preview of the control that would define the rest of their relationship. By June 2005, they were already engaged. By April 2006, their daughter Suri was born in a Los Angeles hospital under specific Scientology guidelines that required what's known as a silent birth, a practice that left the public with even more questions and a whole lot of whispers about what was really happening behind closed doors. The rules around the birth were intense. No talking, no music, no noise of any kind during labor. The belief was that any words spoken during pain could leave a mark on the baby's mind later on, so the entire room had to stay silent. Tom even bought a full ultrasound machine so he could monitor the pregnancy himself at home, something that made outsiders raise an eyebrow fast. To him, it was devotion, but to people on the outside looking in, those moves started to feel way more controlling than caring. Then came the wedding on November 18, 2006, a massive event held inside a 15th-century castle in Italy overlooking Lake Bracciano. It was a full Scientology ceremony with a price tag around $3 million, packed with huge names like Will Smith, Jennifer Lopez, Jim Carrey, and the Beckhams. Katie wore a custom Giorgio Armani gown while fireworks lit up the entire sky like a movie scene straight out of a fairy tale. On the surface, it looked like the perfect Hollywood love story. But behind the smiles, not everyone felt the magic. Katie's parents, devout Catholics from Ohio, sat quietly through the ceremony, looking uneasy and out of place. They watched their daughter get pulled into a world they didn't understand, filled with beliefs they couldn't support, and led by a man operating on a completely different wavelength from the rest of the family. They smiled for the cameras because they had to, but inside they were already scared, and they weren't wrong to feel that way. By 2007, the cracks were showing even though the cameras kept capturing happy moments. Katie Holmes had gone from America's sweetheart to someone living inside what felt like a beautiful cage. Friends began noticing something that didn't sit right. She was never alone anywhere she went. Someone from Tom's inner circle was always around, someone tied to Scientology, moving quietly and watching every little thing she did. One time, journalist Maureen Orth joined Katie for dinner and instantly picked up on the strange tension. When fans approached the table, Katie smiled politely, but then she said something that made Orth stop cold. "Oh, we don't go outside very much." It sounded casual, almost like a joke. But to anyone actually paying attention, it was a red flag waving right in the open. This didn't look like the life of a Hollywood wife. It looked like isolation disguised as commitment. Meanwhile, Tom's role inside Scientology kept growing. He had joined the church back in the late 1980s, first introduced by his then-wife Mimi Rogers. After his split from Nicole Kidman in 2001, a breakup many people believe was affected by the church viewing Nicole as a suppressive person, Tom threw himself even deeper into the belief system. By the time he married Katie, he wasn't just involved, he was fully committed, and he expected his new family to fall right in line with the same teachings and the same intensity. Katie, who grew up Catholic in Toledo, Ohio, suddenly found herself trying to survive in a world that felt nothing like the life she came from. She attended Scientology courses, sat through auditing sessions, and tried to wrap her head around the structure surrounding her, but the more she learned, the more the discomfort started creeping in. This wasn't just a belief system, it was a whole lifestyle that dictated everything from how you gave birth to how you raised your kids to who you were even allowed to have around you. Her parents, Martin and Kathleen Holmes, watched everything from the outside with rising fear. They were devout Catholics who raised their daughter with traditional values, and now they were watching her get pulled into a world they didn't recognize at all. Their visits slowed down, their phone calls became awkward, and it felt like Katie was slipping away. Not because she wanted distance, but because the walls around her were closing in tighter and tighter. Behind the scenes, the control kept increasing. Even simple decisions had to be run through layers of approval. When director Adam Sandler tried to cast her in his movie Jack and Jill, he reportedly had to convince Tom to sign off on it. Tom wasn't thrilled about Katie playing a character married to another man, even in a comedy, and that tension showed just how controlled her career had become. He eventually said yes, but her role was tiny, almost like she wasn't meant to stand out at all. What Tom didn't realize was that this little bit of time away from home gave Katie something priceless: space to breathe and space to think. During that period, she quietly started consulting with lawyers and began planning her exit strategy without anyone noticing. It was the first real chance she had to move without someone watching every step. By 2010, the whispers behind closed doors started getting louder. Katie began skipping certain Scientology events, something nobody expected. She reconnected with friends from her life before Tom, the people who knew her before the spotlight and the pressure. She started spending more time in New York, far away from Los Angeles and the constant watchfulness surrounding her daily life. To the public, nothing looked different. She and Tom still looked like the picture-perfect couple, posing on red carpets, raising their daughter, living what looked like a dream. But behind the smiles, Katie was already building her escape plan piece by piece, and she knew she had only one chance to make it work without losing everything she cared about. She worked quietly for months, maybe even years, knowing that when the moment finally came, it had to be flawless. Katie Holmes was living a whole double life without anyone noticing. On the outside, she smiled for the cameras, walked red carpets, and played the part of Tom Cruise's supportive wife like everything was perfect. But behind closed doors, she was quietly building one of the sharpest, most strategic exits Hollywood had ever seen, and she knew one wrong move could cost her everything, especially her daughter. The real mastermind behind her escape wasn't some flashy Hollywood lawyer. It was her own father, Martin Holmes, a 67-year-old attorney from Toledo, Ohio, who moved like a chess player, not a celebrity fixer. He handled business litigation, personal injury cases, and family law, and he was known for being strict, methodical, and the type of man who never backed down from a fight. People who worked with him said he lived by one rule: it's either done his way or not at all. And when his daughter asked for help, he jumped into action instantly. Katie's first move was small but brilliant. She got a burner phone, a simple pay-as-you-go cell phone given to her by a close friend, one that couldn't be traced back to her or monitored by anyone connected to Tom's world. She used that phone to reach out to lawyers in New York, in California, and in other states, building backup legal teams just in case things exploded into a nationwide battle. Every call was secret, every detail was hidden because she knew even one digital footprint could expose everything. Then she started clearing out anyone who could report on her, quietly firing people one by one. Her bodyguard, her driver, longtime staff members who had worked under Tom's circle for years. Anyone she suspected might tell him or the church what she was planning got removed without warning. To the outside world, it looked like normal staff changes, but Katie knew exactly what she was doing. She was cutting off the silent network that tracked her every step. After that, she rented a hidden apartment in downtown Manhattan, telling Tom it was just for privacy and convenience, something simple and innocent. And he believed her. She switched her email addresses and phone numbers, saying it was for work and organization, and again he didn't question it. During phone calls, she still told him she loved him, kept her tone calm, kept him comfortable, all while lining up every single piece of her escape behind the scenes. It was the ultimate quiet strategy. Then came the move that changed the entire outcome. She chose where to file the paperwork. Instead of California, she picked New York, and that decision was a power play all by itself. California courts tend to lean toward joint custody, which would have meant Tom having equal control over Suri's upbringing, including her religious environment. But New York? New York gave far more protection to a parent seeking primary custody, especially when they believed they were safeguarding their child from outside influence. That legal choice wasn't random, it was precise, calculated, and absolutely the key to everything she was about to do next. Influence wasn't just part of the argument, it was the whole foundation of Katie's plan, and she knew exactly what she was fighting against. Then came the moment she finally pulled the trigger on the entire operation. On June 28, 2012, while Tom was thousands of miles away in Iceland filming the sci-fi movie Oblivion, Katie made the call that flipped his world upside down. She told him straight up that she wanted a divorce, and he didn't see it coming at all. In a later interview with the German network ProSieben, Tom even admitted, "I didn't expect it." And that line shocked people everywhere because this was a man known for control, precision, and never letting anything catch him off balance. This time, everything slipped right through his fingers. By the time the news went public, Katie was already 10 steps ahead. She had 3 different law firms lined up in 3 different states, all ready to move at the same time. She filed in New York, requested an anonymous caption to protect her daughter's privacy, and asked for sole custody, a move that told everyone exactly how prepared she was. The paperwork was clean, perfect, and calculated down to the smallest detail. Even with all his power and influence, Tom got blindsided. Katie had just pulled off one of the sharpest legal strategies Hollywood had ever seen, and people were stunned at how flawlessly she executed it. Most celebrity divorces drag on for months, sometimes for years, turning into messy public fights over property, money, and custody drama. But Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise settled their entire case in 11 days, and that speed said everything loud and clear. Katie walked away with exactly what she came for, and Tom realized fast that he couldn't afford to fight the plan she had already locked into place. On July 9, 2012, just days after the filing, the two released a joint statement, carefully polished and diplomatic enough to sound like it came straight from multiple lawyers. It read, "We are committed to working together as parents to accomplishing what is in our daughter Suri's best interests. We want to keep matters affecting our." When attorney Elizabeth McNamara hit Tom with the direct question, whether Katie Holmes left him to protect her daughter from Scientology, he pushed back at first, calling it offensive. But then he hesitated, and the real answer finally slipped out. When asked, "Did she say that that was one of the assertions?" he replied, "Yes." That one word cracked the entire story open. Just like that, the polished romance, the picture-perfect family image, the Hollywood fairy tale, all of it fell apart right in front of everyone. It became clear this wasn't about drama or gossip. It was about a belief system Tom wasn't stepping away from, and a mother who refused to let it shape her daughter's life. And that same deposition exposed something even heavier. Between June and Thanksgiving of 2012, Tom had only spent 10 days with his daughter, who was 6 years old at the time. His legal team tried to explain it away with work schedules, filming overseas, long hours, all the standard excuses, but the attorney wasn't letting anything slide. She pointed out something that changed the whole tone. During that exact period, Tom flew a 24-hour round trip to London for a Scientology event, so he had the time and energy to make that travel, yet somehow couldn't manage a visit to his daughter living just a few hours away in New York? That question hit hard, and Tom didn't have a solid answer. The last confirmed photos of Tom and his daughter together were from 2012 at Disneyland in California. They were riding the teacups, smiling, laughing, looking like any other parent and child just enjoying the day. She had her hair tied back, grinning from ear to ear, and Tom looked relaxed, holding her close. For a moment, it felt like maybe the split wouldn't tear everything apart, but that ended up being the final public moment they ever shared. After that, the distance grew fast. By 2013, reports came out that Tom had visited privately when she injured her arm, but even that was kept completely hidden from cameras and press. And after that quiet check-in, everything faded. No photos, no public meetups, no confirmed interactions at all. People close to the situation later said the last time Tom saw her in person was in 2013, when she was 7. That means she has lived more than a decade without her father being part of her everyday life. And that silence didn't happen randomly. The reason circles around one word that carries a lot of weight inside Scientology: disconnection. It's a strict policy where members avoid anyone labeled a suppressive person, also called an SP, someone the church views as an enemy or critic. When Katie Holmes left the relationship and moved her daughter away from Scientology's influence, she was reportedly labeled an SP, and that put her child in a difficult position. Under the church's system, that meant her daughter was considered what they call a potential trouble source, someone connected to an SP who might eventually pull away from the church too. Because of that label, any relationship with them could create internal conflict for a member, so distance often becomes the quiet default.
The result? A silence that stretched on year after year, with no public connection, no sightings, and no sign of the bond that once existed. And it all traces back to the moment Katie chose a different path and refused to let her daughter grow up inside a system she no longer believed in.